Hello, everybody. My name is Erin Smith, and I am a professional tarot reader and an associate marriage and family therapist in the state of California. That's Frida. She's under the covers. She's my dog. So tomorrow, December 4th, we will be having a full moon in the sign of Gemini. And so I thought I would do a reading and consult the cards and see what themes may be emerging, what archetypal energies are coalescing, and how we might skillfully approach this time based on everything that's going on in the world. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go silent. I'm going to concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. I'm just going to say a prayer over these cards. Hmm. Oh. Hmm. Hmm. Whew. All right. Well, for those of you who watched my Thanksgiving reading, I went into a pretty detailed description about attachment theory and specifically cards that I believe are associated with attachment wounding. And there's more of that coming up here, but there's also a really strong emphasis here on being able to identify those patterns in our own lives and moved towards relational healing, both within ourselves and in the relationships that we engage in with others out in the world. So it could be a time of being triggered. I mean, I guess that's not super surprising, right? This is a time where people typically are spending more time with family. And for some people, that is a great gift that feels loving and supportive. And for other people, not so much, right? So what one might be able to sublimate at other times in the year is likely to get activated if you are in situations where you're having to engage with family members who haven't done their own healing work. And so, you might want to think of this as an opportunity to bring into clarity, into focus, the ways in which your early childhood conditioning, the circumstances that you grew up with and then internalized as your sense of self, also just your expectations of what you believe your experience is going to be in relationships with other people. Again, what attachment theory tells us is that if your needs are met in a good enough way, consistently, then you internalize a sense of safety and security and a general sense of trust with other people and the world at large. Like, I am capable of getting my needs met. That doesn't mean that things always go my way or that there isn't, conflict or distress, but I know sort of on a cellular level that I'm going to be able to navigate that and work it out. Again, people who that's not the case for, people who were significantly neglected, people whose basic needs were not recognized. And when I say basic needs, I'm not just talking about like food, shelter. I'm talking about the need that all human beings have to be seen, understood, attuned to have our emotions recognized. So even when a parent is not able, like, okay, let's think about this. Like, children have experienced big emotions, right? They have tantrums, emotional meltdowns. And it's not even necessarily that the parent has to be hyper alert and, find ways to fix that for the child. In fact, to a large degree, that kind of anxious, hyper attunement can cause other kinds of issues, right? In terms of that child's sense of self or safety in the world. But if a parent is able to feel emotionally regulated within themselves in the face of big emotions with their kids are having an emotional meltdown, instead of sending that parent into a state of terror, anxious terror, that the parent is able to just be with the child. I'm here with you in this big emotion. I'm not going anywhere. It's okay that you're having this big emotion. I see you and I'm here for you. And then, what generally tends to happen is that kids kind of like it comes up and out. They process it. Obviously this is different depending on what, stage of development the child is in, right? But generally speaking, children who are feel that the parent is present with them on a consistent enough basis, that in and of itself is a great comfort. It is a comfort and soothing to be seen and understood, and to feel that you don't have to conditionally perform certain behaviors, for instance, suppressing your experience of a big emotion so as not to dysregulate your parents, that you need to do that in order to receive love. There are all kinds of ways that we internalize how our parents are able to meet us or not. And then it really does affect the way that we move out in the world. So, okay, why I'm saying this is that there is this feeling that may be happening for some of you out there. That is this, this is a quintessential image of attachment wounding. It is what one feels when they don't feel a sense of belonging within their family of origin. These, what I think of as orphans who have been wounded by a lack of care, are in exile. They are cast out of the warmth of their community. And they're left to wander in the snow, incapacitated, incapable of caring for themselves. But what's so powerful about this image, and what is really being pointed to as well, when we have attachment wounding in our early childhoods, it colors our perception of the world. You don't know what you don't know. So if you're raised in an environment that is cold, withholding, foreboding, it's hard to know what a different experience might look and feel like. So obviously, if you grow up in a, withholding household, that doesn't mean that everyone in the world is going to respond to you that way. But if that's what you're used to, it's hard to seek out people who are able to meet you in this collaborative and genuine way. So what we see here is the orphans walk right past this church that's lit from within. And the symbolic significance of the church is that the lights are on. And so the doors are open. And all who need to can come inside and avail themselves of the things they need in order to thrive. So, are you cold? Come be warmed by our fire. Are you hungry? Come be fed, but receive sustenance in our soup line. Are you lonely? Come be welcomed into the fold of our congregation. But the orphans, they don't see that as a possibility, and so they walk right on by. And so much of what we must do if we know that we have been raised in an environment of deprivation is to begin to intentionally turn our attention towards people, institutions, organizations that are offering this kind of social support. Um, and it's not always easy initially, I think it's really important for us to know that when the wound is relational, the medicine has to be relational as well. So this isn't a pull yourself up by your bootstraps moment. It's not go read some self-help books and fix yourself. That is not the appropriate, or I guess effective treatment for attachment wounding. You have to be able to investigate these deeply held unconscious beliefs, emotions, memories, impressions of what it's like to be in relation with other people. We have to be able to process them in the presence of a compassionate, knowledgeable witness. Hierophant is what I associate with spiritual teachers or guides, mentors, therapists, trusted advisors, somebody who has wisdom and experience and is part of a system of gaining knowledge through experience and then being able to pass that wisdom on to others. And of course, we all need this at some point or another, right? I mean, even if you're not a person who feels that they need to go to therapy, we all need mentors, advisors, people that we trust who can help us guide or who can guide us through the areas of life that we are uncertain in, Again, you don't know what you don't know. And when we are able to receive this kind of assistance, then of course there are times in life where we're called to be this for others. So ultimately, what's coming up here through the cards is that this may be a time where a lot of our relational wounding is really up. It's really activated, which is a good time to go seek assistance, right? If it's below the level of consciousness, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But if you're aware of it, if you have access to it, then you can begin to shift the way that you feel about yourself, the way that you move about the world, and start to develop new awareness, new skill set. Another one that's coming up here, again, this idea of like when you've been enormously um, disappointed, disillusioned, abandoned by others, one of the ways that people, these coping mechanisms that we all develop in the face of adversity, and in some ways they're really wise and wonderful, and they help us survive some of these situations that are less than ideal. But they also can become a hindrance to us achieving greater closeness. But one of these coping mechanisms, a response to deprivation is just to become super self-sufficient. I've got this. I know exactly what to do. I can do it all. If I don't do it, no one else will. So I'm going to do everything. And what the Ten of Wands is showing us that this isolation, this inability to ask for help or to share with others, the heavy burden that we are carrying, it is crushing. Again, no one can go through life being an island unto themselves. We are social creatures. We need one another. And again, while it's, you know, a great skill to be highly capable and be able to do a lot of different things yourself, inevitably we all need to ask for help at times and let other people in. Let other people in who might assist us in these struggles that are deeply tied to emotional wounding in childhood. These two cards show up in my thesis on tarot and attachment. So, what happens once we start to seek assistance? Sometimes initially, and this is something, that gets talked about quite a bit in recovery communities, is that you start to address the issue, you start to let go of your tried and true coping mechanisms, right? In recovery, it might be substance use. You know, um, Drugs and alcohol are a very effective way at numbing the pain. Of course, the problem becomes that the more that you use them, the less you are capable of choosing in a measured and wise way how you're going to show up for things. A dependency on substances starts to take over in a really significant and often detrimental way. And when you let that go, initially things can actually look a lot worse, right? You don't have that ability to take the edge off in the same way. And you haven't yet learned from your trusted advisors new ways of self-soothing, emotionally self-regulating. And so things can look very chaotic in the beginning, right? When we begin to identify these old patterns in ourselves and we wish to replace them with new ones, it's often a kind of maddening experience in the beginning. We develop the awareness that we would like to have closer, more collaborative relationships, but we don't know what we're doing. And so it can feel very frustrating. It can feel like being at odds with yourself and others, like a lot of chaotic energy that isn't like aligned. But it is sort of a necessary stage, right? It's like um, in order to build new neural pathways, we have to be willing to take new actions. And in the beginning, they can feel really clunky. Um, but what Spirit is saying is that this radical shifting, this rearrangement of old habits, both personally and collectively, right? We're seeing this all over the place. I think what we are looking at on a, systemic level is that institutions that we once relied on for safety and security are categorically failing us. And it's time to tear them down. It's time to let them fall so that we can build something new that is more sustainable, that is more collectively compassionate and willing to meet the needs of all members of society. This isn't happening anymore. We pay taxes for a reason, that I want my taxes to go towards the collective good, to pay for schools, education for all, to pay for people who can't eat. I am happy to have my taxes pay for SNAP benefits for people. I am happy to see that people who need assistance are able to receive it easily. You know what I don't want my tax dollars to go towards? Killing people, bombing people, destruction instead of assistance. Taxation without representation. That's what we're looking at right now. And a revolution is in order. It is time to let the old systems fall. I mean, they're crumbling anyway. What's happening right now is not sustainable. The tower is major upheaval, big changes that affect us in core ways. So again, what we once thought were people who offered us stability, security, institutions, beliefs, professions, anything that we once went to for our sense of security that is not working anymore. It's failing. It is time to let that go. So I often associate the tower with Kali. And Kali is the goddess of creation and destruction because periodically we need to destroy these stagnant, corrupt structures that were built for stability that have now become stagnant and poisonous. And the beautiful thing is that once you've cleared away that which is no longer working, then you have this beautiful, um, you have all this room to welcome in the new. You cannot, so long as you're holding on to power and control, there's no room for anything new to come in. You have to release. And that is really what the tower is saying. So a lot of times people are very unnerved by the tower. And, look, not for nothing again, when you are in a place, in a time in your life where you're really on a cellular level ready for change, it's it's beautiful, but it can also be terrifying, right? There's that kind of liminal space where you want to move away from the old patterns and you haven't yet established the new way of being. And so again, it is a time to really reach out to our trusted advisors, you know, um, so that we can begin to build this new life, move towards a new way of being that is in accordance with a higher vision, a vision that is far more relational, maybe even than it has ever been. The Two of Wands, wand energy is like life force energy. It's passion, creativity. And the Two of Wands is about the beginning stages of something. You're just starting out on a new path. And you can see our friend, he's got this globe in his hand. He's imagining where he might go. Um, but he has no real experience with the terrain yet. Again, he is just beginning this exploration. And so it's really important when we're on the brink of a new experience that we want to throw out the old maps. We might have an idea of where it is that we want to go, but we want our experience, our actual present tense experience, as we set our intention to move in that direction, to then allow this experience to inform us of how things might be different as we move forward. And the vision I really want to leave you with, it just makes me want to cry. It's so sweet and so beautiful. Cups are relational. They represent love, emotions, intuition, and these cards are also representations of secure attachment. They showed up in my thesis. And by the way, if any of you are interested in reading my thesis, I mean, no pressure, it is a piece of academic writing. But if anybody is interested, I would be more than happy to email it to anybody who wants to read it. So the Six of Cups is like loving before you've ever had your heart broken. It's loving with an unguarded heart. It is this sweet, trusting way of interacting with other people. There's no reservation. There is no need to protect oneself in this state of being emotionally open and desirous of connection. That there is this sweet exchange of intimacy, vulnerability that you see these two young children engaging with each other. It's like returning to this state of feeling safe to love. And when we have gotten to that place, when we found that kind of safety within ourselves, then we can go out in the world and create communities that feel like family. We can do it within our chosen family. We can find other people who are capable of that kind of emotional authenticity. And we can be in this beautiful celebration of what it ideally would feel like for everybody to grow up in a family where you're seen and celebrated, where there's this joy of being with one another that is freely expressed. This is ideally what families should feel like. And ultimately, what spirit is moving us in the direction to let go of these old, deeply internalized wounds that were acquired through early childhood experience that are now uh, getting seen, getting revealed to be healed, right? And so we are in a place where we can begin to do this work to create um, more skillful internal and external relationships with self and other, to begin again so that we might have this experience of real reciprocation, real attuned love. So it just looks like more healing is afoot in the ether around this full moon. And, I hope this was helpful. It may not apply to everyone, I mean, on a personal level, but I think that collectively we can definitely see how it's time to restructure things, um, to let love in. All right. I hope that you have a blessed full moon tomorrow, and I'm wishing you well in this season. Take care.